Mr. Vohra, thank you very much for joining in. What's your sense in terms of the overall policy situation in the US and how Indian generic manufacturers could get impacted?
I actually saw the presidential address, and I think that to me it appeared as if the themes were not very different than what this industry has been seeing in the past 3 to 4 years. Right? I think there was a concern on drug pricing, and this concern's been there for a while. There was a concern on the pace with which approvals are coming to market on the generic side. And actually the industry in the US FDA have been working for a very long time through the GDUFA and through the other acts that they've put in place to make sure that more drugs or more medicines come to the market sooner. There is this talk of I would say make in America, right? And I think that we need to see how it unfolds, because frankly, and I've said this before, the US is a large market, and if there is ever a call to action for people to set up facilities in the US, people will do it, in my opinion, because it is a large market. We already have a large number of our facilities in the US. In fact, we supply almost 80% of what we sell in the US, which is made in the US, made from the US in the US, right? And if there is a requirement that needs to go up because of the size of the US, we will do it.
Okay. The one big thing which could be expected is a Medicare negotiation directly with companies. So that means maybe a little more pressure on generic pricing. How would that impact branded as well as generic drugs, as well as your portfolio in the US? I
think the Medicare actually impacts the branded guys more, right? And because the manner in which the generic business is done in the US on Medicare, it's more a business where it's almost like it's open bid, right? A lot of the business we do with the government is already based on bidding, and Medicare treats its own patients through people who've enrolled in that program, and there's a very adequate pricing mechanism that governs that, and which is basically linked to free market. It's not linked in any way. I don't think that the impact of Medicare will have a far-reaching impact on generics. I do think that it will probably have a larger impact on branded drugs.
Will the game significantly change for Indian companies if in case there is a border tax?
Let's put it in two ways, right? I think, is there going to be a border tax? Maybe there is, right? Do I think it comes down? I personally don't think that it would be something which is announced and implemented tomorrow. I think companies will be given time, right, for this border tax to come in place, etc. What's the short-term impact of border tax? There will be a short-term impact, because if there's a border tax, you've got to be paying out more, right? So there will be a short-term impact on border tax. But I think most companies are in a stage today that they have to probably take this hit for about a year and a half, till the time that they are able to either migrate the production into the US or to a US territory, right? Or for that matter, set up their own facilities at that point in time. So I think there will be an impact for about a year and a half. But I don't think the long-term fundamentals of the attractiveness and the size of the US market will change at all.
Right, but the point is that Trump wants more competition, more FDA approvals. So overall pricing pressure up to 10%, less than say 5%,
yeah,
up to 15%.
I'm not sure the border tax is going to have an impact on pricing pressure. I would call that pricing pressure is going to be 6 to 10% in the US. It's always been so. Some years have been 12, some years have been 3, right? But broadly, on a long-term basis, pricing pressure is there at 6 to 10%. It's not going to change overnight.
So what is your portfolio looking like in terms of FDA approvals as well as filings?
We're doing about 25 to 30 filings a year now. We will end this year somewhere closer to that number, 25 to 30. We hope to repeat this next year. Filings in itself, as a number, is not predictive of an outcome, right? It's an entry ticket. How you play the game is more important. What's in your file is more important, right? So the quality of the file is what is more important to us. And we have a nice set of products, and we've got a good range of respiratory products that we are filing. We've got a good range of injectables. We've got a good range of hormonal products. We believe competition is not going to be aggressive in these categories. And I just think that, if we are able to execute the way we are, we feel very good with our pipeline.
And what about your inhaler portfolio in the US? Advair, where does it stand? When can we see approval, movement?
Advair is a little way off, to be very honest. I think what will happen in Advair first is our clinics. And our clinics will start hopefully sometime soon. I think we're way off. We're still some time on Advair to file. Right? It could be before that, right? FY19 or early, let me say early to mid FY19 is what we're looking at. Let's say mid FY19 is what I'm looking at for Advair.
Okay, that's your inhaler portfolio in the US, but there has been some amount of management rejig which has happened at Cipla, and there are some murmurs about maybe a US rejig as well with Tim Crew. Your comments on that, and if there is some management change happening there?
No, so I think we, as an organization, we are now on the path of trying to create more leaders from within. Yeah, so we've had our share of, you could call it jigs or rejigs, right? Either way you'd want to put it. I'm a product of the rejig, right? So, but our endeavor now, by and large, we believe that our management team is in place, right? Our endeavor now, in looking at our agenda, is to groom leaders from within, right? So we've taken some bets in moving talent from India to the US. And it's with that intention that we've also had this conversation that every market that we operate in, whether it's Europe, it's emerging markets, it's the US, it's India, younger talent, and I don't want to say younger in terms of age, I don't want to say younger in terms of experience, but I want to say younger in terms of talent which we believe has potential. So I would say potential talent, right, is the talent that we want to groom, and we want at least 3 or 4 of those people available in each market. So whether it's Tim or it's Christos or it's Paul or Nikhil Chopra in India, all of them have been given a mandate to groom their successors, right? And because we will need that firepower if we have to grow. Tim's been, I'll come directly to the question that you asked, and therefore there is a focus on internal leadership. Tim's been with the organization for a long time, and I think Tim will probably still be with us, right, in some form or the other, whether and he will still be a very strong advocate for Cipla. But yes, there has been a conversation internally, and Tim has looked at whether he needs to support his family more than the organization at this stage. So we are working on a succession plan for Tim as well in the US, and it's very planned. It's not sudden. It's been going on for 5 or 6 months, and everyone's been really mature about it, right? And so what I'm not telling you is that Tim's leaving the organization, but what I'm telling you is that over time this exit could happen, right? And it's not an exit. It is Tim's need to be with his family at this point in time, just like every one of us. But there is a succession plan. It's not a sudden announcement. It's been in the works for a while. And Tim's taken the pains to groom the next leader from within. So we're not importing a leader from outside, but we're grooming a leader from within.
What is the succession plan for Cipla?
I can't speak on behalf of the promoters, right? But I can speak on behalf of the company. I can only say this about the promoters, that in their conversations, I think with media, internally with the organization, with me, right? There's never been a talk about either Cipla merging or selling out or doing anything. I think the mandate has always been that we are an 80-year-old company and we've got to think of the next 80 years. And frankly, in the last 10 years, we've actually fallen, right? We were the largest company. We actually moved down now to 3rd rank to 4th rank. And now there's a growing need. There's a fire to start getting back, right? So it is to aggressively grow Cipla, right? And and that growth may come through Cipla acquiring companies, right, to grow. But that's just what I believe is the right thing for Cipla to do. There are immense capabilities in Cipla. It needed a tweaking of where we need to focus, right? And I think now that we are pretty clear about which markets matter to us more than the others, I think our growth path is set.
And what about Serum Institute? There was so much talk about it. And
so Serum Institute, this keeps coming back time and again. And, we struggle hard to see how this comes back into the media, right? But Serum Institute for us is a very good partner. It's an amazing partner. I think the promoters know each other at a certain level. We're partnering with them with several product launches in India. we will continue to be very preferential partners for them, and I'm hoping that that they will be the same for us, right? And this is a partnership. I don't think there is any talk right now about whether Cipla buys Serum or Serum buys Cipla, or either way, or the two merge together or not. I think there is a lot of respect between the two promoters for each other, right? And there's closeness in how we sell their vaccines in India and other parts of the world. But that's where it is as of now. It's a very strong partnership, and we intend to keep growing.
Strong partnership, but when you spoke about probably looking at acquiring companies, are you talking about India?
It could be India. And it's a little bit of, we could plan for everything in acquisitions, but it's also a little bit of being opportunistic. What's available where, right?
There are some distressed assets that we're talking about, that the market is talking about quite keenly. Would you look at those?
We might look at them, but they have to have something more for Cipla, right? So in the sense, because they're distressed at a great valuation, we may buy them, right? But does it add to the strategic reasons that Cipla set for itself? For example, does it allow us to be more relevant? That's one criteria. B, do we have the capabilities? It's distressed for a particular reason. Do we have the capabilities to fix the distress that they're in, right? And if we don't, right, then they don't really offer much value to us. I think we have a lot of work to do internally. We're on a path, right? Maybe our considerations could change 2 years or 3 years later. But we will do it if we believe that there is a core rationale. Whether it's big or small doesn't matter. If it's distressed, it's better, right, because the valuations will be lower. But it's more out of our own need and strategic rationale. So our focus markets, Ekta, just coming back to it, are India, US, about 7 or 8 markets in the emerging side of the world, and South Africa. And if we see opportunities here, right, we will move on them, right? Because we are number 3 in India. We'd like to be dominating India, right? And it doesn't mean that we will be number 1.
What is the size that you look at? Because you also have an enabling resolution to raise funds.
Yes.
So are you raising funds? Is it for an inorganic or acquisition? Have you scouted already?
Not really, not really. I think we've taken an enabling resolutions, and those, by its definition, an enabling resolution is enabling, right? It allows you to do something and even think. We don't want to be in a situation where we have an attractive opportunity and we can't do anything because we've not figured out the governance processes that are required, right? So we have an enabling resolution. I think we feel good about the fact that if there is an asset, we will step up. Right? And the size is, it could be $100 million asset, it could even be $1 billion asset, right? But we just want to make sure that Cipla can add to it, right? And that we are the better owners of the asset than anybody else.